Alright, so I'm gonna explain the MCU timelines and universes and realms and all of that, right? So first let's start with time. So imagine this line, right? And so on this end, we're gonna have a circle, and then on the other end, I guess this looks like the infinity. We have infinity, and then I'm gonna put another line right. Okay, another line right here. So the way we see this, right? On this side, I guess we could call this start, right? This is the beginning of time. Whoa. And so this is where it all began. I mean, obviously, MCU doesn't explain how it all began or, if there were gods that actually created it. But here, we have the present. And then at the end, we have the all infinite continuum. So just infinity. Right? That's the future. So, past, present, and future. So in the MCU, currently we're here, right? This is the phase 5 now after the ends of Quantumania. And so the future we are yet to determine, but we know Kang is part of the future, right? He's going to do something in the future that is terrifying the present. And so now let's say someone like Tony Stark, right? Around here I'm going to put the events of Endgame, right? So people like Tony Stark who are smart enough and have the technology for it are able to drift off from changing what our present was going to be or what our future was going to be. And so when this happens, then this creates a different timeline. So now this present would become here. See how there's two different presents, and then it would have another flow of continuum. Copy, paste. So this is how timeline works. There is the original timeline. This is how it's supposed to flow. This is the originality of it. So it's supposed to start here, go here, and continue on for however long the universe continues on. But then we have variants or outsiders who are able to change that. And so in changing the past or currently the present, they make a different flow of time. So it basically starts up another universe, quote unquote, where we see that what would have been our present and future then changed to whatever that is. And so that creates a different stream. Sometimes in doing so, that ends up canceling whatever we were supposed to have from the beginning. And so this dies off, and then we drift off into this new timeline, right? But at other times, what happens is it sort of trickles back. So it goes like this, and then it goes back. And so what happens here? So let's say we were supposed to have a very specific experience, like Infinity War, where they had to go back and return the stones. That is what's happening here. So when they went back to the past, so let's imagine that this is currently the present. So when they had to go back to the past to return all the stones in order to make sure that the flow of time continues in the exact same order that it was supposed to. Nevertheless, because there was alterations to the past and present, it sort of drifts off into a what if reality. So then that's what this becomes. What if? Which is what is explained in the show. So now that we have the what if reality, and we have the current flow of time, and we also have alternate timelines, this is how it works. So let's recap. Start, present, future. It all started here. This is where we currently are. This is the infinite future. Sometimes people are able to, in their present, go back in time or alter time from the future. Maybe they know the future and they have the technology to change it. So then they create a different flow of time. So this cancels out right here. and time changes entirely. Or what happens is, in their present sort of future, they go back in time to alter things in order to keep the main flow of time, but at the same time also creating a what if reality or what if timeline. So I hope that's simple enough. Basically, this is regular time. This is when someone messes it up and changes everything. But then this is when someone goes back in time to make sure that the changes don't actually change the main flow, but it also creates almost like a paradox where there's some things that are different, but they sort of trickle down and cancel out. So I hope I explained that as perfect as possible. It's again, main timeline, someone fucking it up, someone fucking it up but fixing it so that it continues back to normal. That is the best way I could explain that. So now let's talk about universes and realms. So for a universe or realm, right? So let's start with universes. So this is Earth, right? But technically speaking, there could be an endless possibility of how Earth was different. Actually, no, I don't want to do this. So I'll do this. Right? And so let's say, imagine layers, right? So there's an invisible layer here, and then on this top circle, there's another invisible layer. So this is Earth. On top of that, there's a layer of Earth, and that is if Earth was under an entirely different sets of logics and reality. So imagine this Earth as regular Earth. Imagine this Earth as like where humans are cats or something like that. And so because there are endless possibilities of things that could happen, you end up having, oh my god, why do I keep doing this? You end up having an infinite flow. This is the DC version of how realities work, because I think they explained it easy enough for me to understand. And so it's just this constant flow of what could have happened type of deals. So here we have what the original or ours would be, and then we just have this endless stream of layers and earths that are different from each other. Here we have the cats one, here we could have a dog one, here we could have that humans didn't exist, here we could have like a battle world arena, here we could have like a futuristic from the start type of world. And so these are just earth that are created from the possibilities of differences. And so a way MCU creates this is that if you dream of something, it most likely happened. So imagine this is our Earth. Someone dreamed that everybody was cats. So then this forms as a possibility. And then imagine that someone dreamed that instead of cats, it was dogs. So now this becomes a possibility. And then imagine that someone dreamt, I don't remember, it was, I think this was no humans, and then no humans. And then this one, I think it was a battle arena. So someone dreamed or had the idea of the Earth just being a battle arena forever, then that becomes a possibility. Doesn't mean it's real, but because it's a possibility in the MCU, it would become real. And so at the end, we have like where people think it's technology, all futuristic and beautiful. So then that would be the other possibility. And then this goes on for however long individuals are able to imagine. Where is our little, whoa, where'd it go? Oh, I'm just sorry. Anyways, but and then this goes on for all of eternity. So as long as people have imagination and dreams, different realities or different realm, well not realms, or a different universe are able to form, because that's how they explain dream walking, where it's just someone had a dream here that created this, and then another person could have a dream here that created this. And because of the logic, technically speaking, people within those realms that have been created could dream of another realm. And so that's why it's constant and seemingly endless, is because as long as there's creativity, if you could if you could imagine or dream of someone imagining something, that creates another thing on its own. And it's like, imagine it as a computer system. If you could develop a computer, which is basically us, and it creates code to make like an NPC, then if you write the code for that NPC to also make dreams, then that will lead to it making other codes and quote unquote computers. And so this is just constantly going, and it's just as long as there's a living brain, it will continue on forever. So that's universes. That's I think it's simpler than timelines because it's just imagine it this way. If you could imagine it, it's a possibility, therefore you could travel to it, quote unquote. That is the simplest way to say it. Now, for realms, which is a bit harder because the only other big realm that we know of is Asgard. And so I don't like know how actually connected it is to like Norse mythology. It's pretty connected, but I mean Loki hasn't fucked any horses, so I don't think it's that connected. But but they have told that he's bisexual, so I don't know if it's like picking and choosing what it takes from mythology or if it's all of it, but he's just ashamed to say it. But anyways, so imagine this is Asgard, imagine this is Earth. This is almost like a planet with its own logical rules. So how they run things, how their physiology works, everything is entirely different from us. But nevertheless, it's still within the same universe slash reality slash timeline. And so what happens is, remember how I mentioned before? Oh, remember how I mentioned before that there are what the heck? How there are different universes. So imagine that we're on the first universe, the one that I said it's ours, and also in the same timeline, the one where it's in the present. This location right here in space and time of that same timeline slash universe is able to function differently from this, but it's still within the same barriers, which are all of these. So this right here would be universe slash timeline, right? So this barrier right here is the same universe, it is the same timeline. Here, it's Earth. We all know that we have gravity, we cannot fly unless you're on a plane or using fuel. We don't have the ability to create natural blast unless, of course, something from outside. So, like, let me make different things. I'll explain these things in a little bit. Right? Naturally, on Earth, you wouldn't be able to get different abilities or stuff unless, you know, there are outside forces that give that. And so on Asgard, which would be right here, their space or their location on the universe and timeline, it's a little different from ours. So we know that they could use magic, and some of this magic could be explained by their natural forces of nature, but compared to us, their nature is different. But it's still within the same universe, the same timeline. It's just a different location in the same place. It's like your house versus your friend's house. Your mom's rules are different from your friend's mom's rule. If you're a minority, you know that you are very limited to the stuff you can do, and every minority is different. If you're Asian, you're more likely to have a set of rules and standards at your house that are different from mine that are Hispanics. And you could say that about almost everybody. Everybody has different standards. And so that is the same thing. This is our house. On Earth, we share values, structures, and logics the same as each other, but in our house. Now, Asgard is a different house. They share their logic, their values, their ideologies. It's all different from us, but it's still their house within the same block. And the same block would be the universe and timeline. And so we have outside forces. We have, like, I would say this is the Infinity Stone. We have stuff like the Infinity Stone that are able to almost cross, right? So it's able to cross outside of our universe and timeline and also cross into our universe and timeline. And so the stones are able to give us abilities. So that's almost messing with our logic, messing with our flow of timeline, messing with our universe. But it's one small factor. And so then there's other things like technology from other locations that, if passed down here, could sort of help us. So you know how Thor's hammer Mjolnir is able to give the powers of Thor to anybody that's worthy enough to wield it. This weapon, which would be Mjolnir, when it goes here, it brings the logic from here, but it does not bring here. So it just, let's say, for us, 2 plus 2 is 4. For them, let's say 2 plus 2 is fish. So when you bring something from from like places where it would be fish, and you bring it here, it almost adds that logic to whoever is able to hold the weapon or that has the weapon. So imagine this as a calculator. You bring the calculator from here to here, it's going to give you a different number as opposed to the regular one from here. Now, as soon as this object is removed, our whole flow of time, our whole logic goes back to normal. So this weapon itself, or this part of this bigger structure, is the only exception to bringing that logic and form of way to us. And so that's pretty simple. The way realms work is that each realm has its own logics. And if you bring things from those... And when you bring things from those realms, it's able to enact those logic because it was made primarily using the logic in those realms. And so that's the... Let's try to recap and make it easier. But that's the gist of it. So, right? So there's Earth, there's Asgard, there's man, I forgot the planet with the Kree people, but the Kree. And so when you make a technology in your house, or let's say you bring something from your house, like I guess like your phone, right? Your mom or dad allows you to go on certain sites. Meanwhile, your friend in his house, he's not allowed to go through that. But then you bring your phone to your friend's site or house and you show him some of the stuff you go on, and he's like, "Oh my god, that's crazy. I've never seen that." That's what that is. It's bringing something that other people don't have that you have in your house that basically surprises them. And so, you know, it's still your phone. It still has whatever you kept on it, you know? Meanwhile, the other person is not used to it, so obviously they're gonna act surprised. And then there are certain things. How to explain an Infinity Stone? Easy. Imagine it this way. Imagine it like a weapon created by God. If you believe in God or Allah or Zeus, whoever you believe in, or if you don't believe in anything, well, this just imagine it, right? So imagine God created something that could basically touch outside of our universe, outside of our time, and also within us. That's what this is. This is like something not real entirely, but almost godlike. And so because of that, it's able to create alterations everywhere. But again, it's not real, so you don't have to think too deeply of the logic. Just know that this is something that could go in all ways, shapes, or form. Now, one last thing I would like to explain, because now that we're talking Infinity Stones, I think this would be very important. There is a... I'll use this. There is a stream of line or a stream of place that is outside time and space. So how would this be created? There are different reasons as to why this would be created. What the heck? Personally, I'm gonna try to make it as easy as possible because MCU makes it so freaking difficult to understand. And honestly, I want to help you guys. I try to understand all of this BS so that you guys don't have to put in too much work. All right. So again, past, present, future. So now, imagine that somehow somebody has the technology to just be always existing no matter what. So in order to do that, you can have the powers of an Infinity Stones. You could basically be godlike. This is almost like heaven, right? This would be heaven. Heaven does not have a beginning, or well, I mean, it has a beginning if you believe in it, but it's always been there. Like I guess God has always been there. If you believe, quote unquote, I don't, and I'm trying to make it easier to explain. So most people do. I know that. So imagine this is God right here, or His realm, and so people. All right. Hmm. I already used a smiley face, so I can't use that. All right. So people, let's say from right here, if they're able to somehow get a hold of getting here, whether by that big, imagine this as a combination of God and heaven? Question mark. And so, if God or heaven allow you in, which is the case for Loki and Sylvie, you now exist outside the main stream. Oh, what am I doing? You get to exist outside of time, but also outside of space and universes. And so over here, the logics will be forever the same. And because you're here, now you exist by those logics. And so whatever happens here technically would not affect you. However, whatever happens here could affect what happens down here. So let's say someone from here is able, like Sylvie, is able to delete an entire equation, then this is going to happen. And so because this was deleted, technically time has to I guess fix itself. That's the easiest word I could give you. Because it has to fix itself, then it's going to create a new timeline. And so now this becomes the past. This becomes the present. And then finally, this becomes the future. And so the reason why I'm saying all of this is because this is what happened in Loki. This is the best way to explain what happened in Loki. So Loki and Sylvie came here because Kang, or the one who remains, I forgot his name, allowed it to. Therefore, whatever happens here affects all of this. And so she, Sylvie, killed the one who remains, and this no longer could stabilize all of this. And so in destroying a future that would have been, now becomes a new one. So then this would be where everything happened, which unlocked this to happen now. So instead of happening here, because remember, there was not much known about the multiverse. And so the way you should imagine this is that, so this, imagine this is the events of Loki. And now, no way, because of this, No Way Home was possible. Because of this, Mom was possible. Because of this, now there's an endless stream of what could be, what will be, etc. And so it all happened because someone from outside time and space that could travel through all of time and all of, and all of the universe altered one small detail. And that is the easiest way I could explain. Over here in heaven, someone granted the ability to change the future. Therefore, because there was no future predetermined, a new one came out because the timeline has to be fixed and it always has to be linear in a way. And so now this unlocked for other realms of possibilities to exist, which was different universe, different realities. But in doing so, there's now a current new future. So this is the main line. Of course, people could drift off and, bring new ones, but this now becomes the main line. This disappears entirely, and it's just this curve right here, which in theory is linear. Linear. But I just want you to show the difference. So this was the original one. After Sylvie killed He Who Remains, this got deleted, and then this became the new one. So this is one linear line. That also unlocked for different realities to exist. because the one who remains made sure that that was impossible until he got killed, and so that is it. That's the easiest way to explain timelines, realms, universes, and I guess the plays outside of time and space.